Okay, good morning everyone. So today I will just report about this diagram. So always while discussing with the operating system, we need to discuss with this architecture. It is a general architecture. So here we will be having three layers. That is, one is hardware layer, second one is software layer, third one is user layer. See here, user cannot be able to interfere with the hardware, means cannot able to interact with the hardware directly, so that we require a interface of software, right? With the interface of software, the user can interact with the hardware. So that's why operating system is a major software which we require to communicate between user and the hardware, right? So with the help of operating system, the people are able to communicate with the hardware. Otherwise, we cannot directly able to communicate with the hardware. That's why each and every system, communicating system, must contain a operating system as a major software. With the help of operating system, the device is going to communicate with the user, right? So here, already hardware means there is a CPU, RAM, and some input output devices will be there. And in the software section, operating system is a major software. Again, we'll be having system softwares and application software, and on top of that, we'll be having various users who are going to communicate with that system. Clear? System software in the sense the softwares which are related to the system, nothing but the software which are relevant to your operating system, nothing but called as system software. And the application software are the software which are relevant to the application. So we'll be having various softwares relevant to the system, as well as we'll be having various software relevant to the application. So here, application user is depending upon the application software. That's why user is going to install various application according to his or her need, right? Based on his or her application, the user is going to interact with the operating system. So here normally we need a base platform as an operating system to install a system software as well as the application software. And also user can able to communicate with the softwares relevant to the operating system. Like there are some utility facilities which are provided by the operating system, like settings, date, calendar. These are all the utility softwares, right? Those softwares are coming along with the operating system. You are not going to install, right? So some of the applications which are coming along with the operating system, such applications are called as system related applications, and some of the applications which you are going to install according to your needs, such applications are called as application software. Clear? So application software in the sense, for example, I will give you an example related to the Android. The software which you are installing from the Play Store are nothing but a application software. So whatever the softwares you required relevant to the Android operating system, that softwares are available in a Play Store. So you are going to download those softwares on your system, and you are going to install those software, because you need some softwares in order to communicate with that particular software, right? So you, before that, you have to install such softwares on the operating system, then only you can able to communicate with that operating system. And some softwares are coming along with the operating system, like calendar, settings, and some basic softwares like messenger, uh, camera, and call log. These are all the some utility functions which are already available, which comes along with the operating system. You are not installing application called camera. You are not installing application called call log. You are not installing the application called messenger. Right? These are the softwares which coming along with the system. Clear? Such softwares are referred as system software. So using system softwares and application softwares, the users are able to communicate with the operating system. So like this, the communication between user and the hardware is going to happen with the help of system software as well as with the help of application software. Those softwares are going to be installed on top of operating system. So there are various features which are available in a particular operating system. You take any operating system, in general I am speaking. You take Android, you take Windows, or you take Linux, whatever the operating system you take. So in all such kind of operating system, there are some features which are available. Means like memory management is a facility which is provided in the operating system, and processor management is also one of the facility which is provided in the which is coming along with the operating system, and device management is also one of the facility which comes along with the operating system, and file management is also one of the facility which comes along with the system. Clear? These are all the facilities which are coming together with the operating system. So we'll discuss one by one. What is memory management? So you, while performing any task or while performing any activity in your device, at that time memory management plays an important role. Why memory management plays an important role? So in order to install any application software, or in order to install any system software, we require a memory, right? So if the system allocates a memory, then only the thing is going to install on top of your operating system, right? Means system has to allocate a resources in order to install any applications of your choice. Then only the applications can be installed. So sometimes if the size is not available in your device, clear, at that time it will pop up a message called memory full. Clear? From where you are getting this message? This message is received from the operating system. If the memory is available, then only operating system will allocate a memory in order to install a particular software. If the memory is not available, at that time operating system will display a pop-up message called as memory full, or memory is not available. That's why in order to install any applications or any software on top of the operating system, at that time operating system must allocate a memory. Clear? So here memory management plays a important role with respect to the operating system. Whenever you are using applications, at that time resources must be allocated from the operating system. Whenever the application is not used by the particular user, at that time the resources will be deallocated, so that same resources can be allocated for some other application. Like this memory management can be done. So here memory manage memory management is mainly refers to the primary memory or main memory. So here memory management is refers to the primary memory, not secondary memory. So primary memory in the sense, whenever you are running an application, at that time the memory will be allocated by the operating system. That is called as primary memory. So main memory is a large array of words or bytes where each word or byte has its own address. Always while allocating the memory contains its own address, right? So we need to uh, while allocating, we need to allocate a address. Means why address? So the application must be able to identify the location of the memory, right? How can we identify the location of the memory? By referring the address. With the help of address, the application can able to identify the location of that particular memory. For example, if you are moving from one place to the other place, right? On what basis you are moving from one place to the other place? With the help of address, right? If there is a proper address, then only you can able to reach from one place to the other place. Clear? If the address is not proper, whether it is possible to reach from one place to the other place, no, definitely it is not possible, right? That's why proper address has to be given by the operating system in order to allocate a memory, right? While allocating the memory, proper address must be specified. Then only system is going to install some of the applications with the referred address or with the specified address. So main memory provides a fast storage that can be accessed directly by the CPU. So it is a fast accessed memory. So that can be directly accessed by the central processor unit. Clear? For a program to be executed, it must be in the main memory. So whatever the program we are going to execute, that must be installed inside the main memory, or whatever the program you want to run in your system, all such programs are able to run with the help of main memory. So without main memory, we cannot able to run the applications, right? For example, uh, if you want to run two or more applications at the same time. Clear? At that time, all the applications must get a proper resources. Then only all the multiple applications are able to run properly on your device, right? Sometimes if the some devices are having less memory, at that time, if you are trying to run more than one application, at that time what happens? Some of the applications are going to struck. Why it is happening like this? Because proper allocation was not done in that case. Clear? If you are getting a good memory while running the particular program, at that time good amount of memory while running the particular program, at that time definitely the program is going to run successfully, right, are going to execute successfully. That's why main memory plays an important role in with respect to the operating system while executing more than one application on your device. That's why uh, speed of the device also can be calculated with the help of memory, size of the memory, right? If the size of the memory is more, definitely speed of the device will be more. That's why when the device gets slower, at that time some people are trying to upgrade the memory, right? Some people are trying to upgrade the random access memory, right? At that time speed of the device is going to increase, right? So if the system gets slower, some people will trying to upgrade the size of the memory. Suppose initially if there is a 2 GB RAM, and after upgrading you may upgrade it to 4 GB RAM, or you may upgrade it to 8 GB RAM. Why we are upgrading the size of the RAM? Because it boosts the speed of the system. That's why we are trying to upgrade the size of the memory. So the job of the memory management inside the operating system is to allocate the memory and deallocates the memory. So it is trying to allocate the memory when the program is going to run. Our program is going to execute. At that time, the memory will be allocated from the operating system. When the program is closed or when the program is terminated, at that time, the same allocated memory will be deallocated. So that what happens? The memory will be reusable. If the allocated memory is deallocated by the operating system, at that time, same memory can be reallocated to some other application, so that that memory can be used to the some other application, right? That's why this for the purpose of this we require the feature called or the facility called memory management, which is available in most of the in all operating system like Android, iOS, Windows and Linux. Clear? Next is processor management. So name itself says processor management. So this management is with respect to the processor. Clear? In a multi-programming environment, the operating system decides which process gets processor when and for how much time. See here, while running a particular applications, behind that applications, particular process is being created. Particular process is being created. When the particular process is being created, only after allocating the memory, only after allocating the memory, the process is being created. It means that the process is started, right? When the application is started, at that time the particular process is being started after allocating the memory, right? So that process has to be managed. Once the process is started, that particular process has to be managed with the help of processor. Clear? So until and unless the program gets over, till that particular time, the process has to be managed. Means the process has to be active. Hello, good morning, sir. Sir, I am in politics, sir. Yes. Ah, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I am having duties from tomorrow, sir. Yeah, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay. Hello. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was discussing with about processor management, right? So in the multi-programming environment, the processor management plays a important role. So after allocating the memory, the particular process is being created. Clear. So in the sense, when the application is active, at that time the process, when the process is created, at that time application will be active. Clear. When the process is deactivated, means when the process, when the application is closed, at that time the process will be killed. Clear. The when the application is, wait a minute, I will get back to you. ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿ. ಹಾಂ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್. ನಾನು ಮೂಡುಬಿದ್ರಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಹೇಳಿ. ಯಾವಾಗಿಂದ ಸರ್ ಅದು? ನೀವು ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಹಾಂ 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 ಹಾಂ. ಹಾಂ, ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನದಿಂದ ಅಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತೇ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾ ಸರ್? ನನಗೆ ಒಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ IIT ಬಿ ಸ್ಪೋಕನ್ ಟ್ಯುಟೋರಿಯಲ್ದು ಇನ್ವಿಜಿಲೇಷನ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸರ್ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ, ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲೇನೆ. ಅದು ಕೀರ್ತಿ ಸರ್ಗೆ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಸರ್. ನಾನೀಗ ಸದ್ಯ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಒನ್ಸ್ ತಡಿ, ನಾನು ಸ್ಮಿತಾ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ಫರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಹಾಂ, ಅದೇ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಯಾವ್ದು ಎಷ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗಿದೆ ಸರ್ ಅದು? 17 ಡೀಲ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಹೌದಾ, ಓಕೆ. ಆಯಿತು, ಆಯ್ತಾಯ್ತು, ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ. ಬಟ್ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಕೀರ್ತಿ ಸರ್ ಒಂದು ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಕೇಳಿ ನೀವು ಇದು ಮಾಡಿ. ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಸರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ? 1 o'clock. ಆಯ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ಆಯ್ತು. ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ಆಯ್ತು. ಓಕೆ, ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ಆಯ್ತು. ಅಂದರೆ ನೀವು ಇದು ಮಾಡಿ, ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಮಿತಾ ಮ್ಯಾಮಿಗೆ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಆಯ್ತಾನ? ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ.
Okay,
Sorry. So I was discussing about processor management, right? So okay. So when the process is created, at that time, when the application is active, at that time the process will be active. Clear. When the application is killed, at that time the process is being killed. Clear. So this process creation and process killing is going to happen with the help of processor management. Clear. And this function is called as process scheduling. Means when and all the process is going to start, when and all the process is going to stop. Clear. It is depending upon the time of the application which you are going to run, because sometime you are using application for around half an hour, sometime you are using application for around 10 minutes, right? At that time processor has to be schedule the processes. Clear. Then only it will be helpful for the application to run the process properly. Without any schedule, the processor are not going to run properly, right? That's why processor management is required in every operating system, because we don't know what time which application we are going to run and what time which application we are going to close, right? That everything has to be managed. That has to be managed with the help of processor management, right? An operating system keeps tracks of processor and status of processor, right? Status of the processor in the sense active or deactive. It is a status. Clear. When it is active, when the application is running, at that time process is active. When the application is terminating, at that time the active process is being killed. The active process is being killed, right? Like for this purpose, processor management is required, right? It and also it allocates and deallocates the processor to a process. Processor has to be allocates and deallocates for the particular process, like how the memory will be allocated and deallocated by the memory management. Similarly, the process will be allocated and process will be allocated in the sense process will be active. Clear. When the process is active means some of the processor is allocated the process to that particular active process, and when the process is killed, at that time the processor will be deactive. Clear. Like this the processor management has been have been done in the operating system. It is also one of the facility of the operating system. Clear. Next, device management. So name itself says memory management is with respect to memory. Processor management is with respect to processor. Device management is with respect to device. See here, uh, operating system is going to manage the devices also. It will manage all the input output devices. An operating system manages device communication via their respective drivers. Clear. Drivers in the sense software related to run that particular device. So for example, whenever you are inserting USB drive in your device, at that time you are able to see the one pop-up message in bottom right corner. What is that? The drivers are being installed. Drivers are being installed. Like that pop-up message is going to generate at the rightmost bottom corner, right? It means that the softwares related to that device is being installed in the system. Why the software related to that device is being installed in your system? In order to communicate with the device. Who is going to communicate with that device? The operating system wants to communicate with that device. So likewise, whatever the devices you are going to connect with your operating system, all such devices must require a drivers to be installed. Then only the attached device are going to communicate with each other. You take external keyboard, you take external mouse, whatever the devices you take, whatever the devices you are attaching, all those devices must contain a device drivers. Those drivers must be installed on your operating system. Then only those devices are able to communicate with each other. That's why device management is required. So OS does, operating system does keeps tracks of all devices. Program responsible for this task is known as input output controller. So In our here operating system is going to keep track of all the devices which you are going to connect with your device, right? This particular program or the task is known as input output controller. This particular task is being known as input output controller. With the help of input output controller, device management has been done. With the help of input output controller, the device management has been done by the operating system. And it also decides which process gets the device when and how much time. So operating system also decides which process gets the device when and for how much time. When and for how much time, in the sense, at the time of connecting the device, processes must be allocated to that particular device. At the time of removing the devices, the same allocated processes will be removed. Like this, allocation of processes and deallocation of processes are also being carried out by the operating system. Clear? And it allocates the device in the efficient way and deallocates the devices. It allocates the devices in an efficient way and also it deallocates the devices, right? Allocation and deallocation is done only when you are using the devices and when we are not using the devices. While using the devices, it allocates the process. When you are not using the devices, at that time it deallocates the processes, right? While communicating the device, at that time the drivers are being installed in your communicating devices. At the time of removing the devices, the installed drivers will be automatically removed at the time of removing the devices. But the best example what we have seen is while connecting the pen drive. Clear? While connecting the pen drive, the drivers are being installed in order to communicate with that pen drive. And while removing the pen drive, again the drivers will be automatically removed by the operating system. Clear? Like this, in order to communicate with the attached device, we need the help of input-output controller that is being present inside the feature called or facility called device management. Next, file management. A file system is it is about the files. File management is about files. The file system is normally organized into directories. As you all know, file system is normally organized into directories for easy navigation and usage. And these directories may contain files and other directories also. I don't want to tell more about the files because you know what is directory and what is file. As being a computer science student, you all know about the files and directories, right? Directory is nothing but a container which is required to hold the files. Clear? And file is nothing but a any type of file. It may be a Word file, or it may be a JPEG file, or it may be any PDF file. All are relevant to the files. Clear? So operating system need to manage the file system. Operating system needs to manage the file system. How the operating system is going to manage the file system? It is going to keeping track of all the information what you are having in your device and in which location the particular file is located and what is the use of that particular file and what is the status of that particular file. Everything is being managed by the operating system. Clear? So that is a part of file management. That is a part of file management. It keeps the tracks of information, location, uses, status, and collective facilities are known as file system. That everything comes in a file system. For example, in your mobile, there you have a gallery. There you assume that gallery is a directory. There. So what purpose you are using gallery? We are using a gallery to store the pictures generally. Clear? So why we are storing the pictures in the gallery? It is very easy for us to identify the or search the pictorial files in that particular container or in that particular directory. That's why whatever the JPEG files are there, all such JPEG files are being stored in a gallery or in some other subdirectories like Facebook pictures are being stored in a Facebook directory, WhatsApp pictures are being stored in a WhatsApp directory, and pictures which are taken by the camera will be stored in a camera directory. Why they are creating the directory like this? For a user, it is very easy to search. If you want to search the images of the WhatsApp, you can directly go to the WhatsApp directory and you can search over there. Or if you want to search the images of the camera, you can directly go to the camera directory, you can search over there. Like that, it is easier for us to search the things inside the devices when if the files are managed systematically. When the files are managed systematically, then only it is easier for us to search the things. Clear? And it also decides who gets the resources, right? It also decides who gets the resources and allocates the resources and deallocates the resources. It is relevant to the here the resources are related to the files. In the process management, I talk about the resources. There, the resources are relevant to the processes. In memory management, again, I talk about the resources. There, the resources are relevant to the memory. Clear? Here, the resources in the sense, in case of memory management, resources are nothing but memory. In case of process management, the resources are nothing but processors. In case of file management, the resources are nothing but files. Clear? Like this, when the files are being created, at that time, resources will be allocated to that particular file. When the files are deleted, at that time, the resource will be deallocated from that particular file. Means resource in the sense we need a space to store the file, right? It means that we need a memory. Clear? When the memory is available, then only we can able to store the file, right? When the memory is available, then only you can, like for example, today I am sending a one mail for you, right? So mail contains ppt relevant to the first module. Clear? So assume that the size of the ppt file is presentation file is around 5 MB. Clear? So at that time, what you are going to check, you are going to check the mail, right? In that mail, you are going to see my file and you are going to trying to download that file, right? Assume that memory is full. Currently, the memory is full in your device, right? So you are trying to download. Whether download is possible? No. Download is not possible because of unavailability of the space, right? That's why in order to store the files or in order to download the files in your system, at that time particular amount of storage is required. Then only you can store that particular file. It means resources are required, right? Resources are required. Resources in the sense, resources like memories are required in order to store the file. Clear? After deleting, that resources are allocated resource will be reallocated to some other files. Yes or no? Like this, resource management is also done in case of file management. Without having resources, we cannot able to store the files or we cannot able to search the files. Next, we'll discuss about, this is about various management like memory management, processor management, device management, and file management. So you must remember all these four types of management, which are all the facilities of the operating system: memory management, processor management, device management, and file management. Next, we'll discuss about components of Unix system. The Unix operating system has primarily three components like kernel, system library, system utility. These are the three libraries which are found in a Unix operating system. It is now we are talking particularly about Unix operating system. These are the three primary components which are available in a Unix operating system. We'll discuss one by one. What do you mean by kernel? Kernel is the core part of Linux. It is responsible for all major activities of this operating system. It consists of various modules and it interacts directly with the underlying hardware. So kernel is nothing but it is a core of the operating system. It is responsible for all major activities of this operating system. It consists of various modules and it interacts directly with the underlying hardware. So here, user is not able to directly communicate with the hardware, as I said earlier. Right? Whatever the operating system you take, right? In all the operating system, the user is going to communicate with the help of operating system only, right? Here also, in case of Linux, the user is going to communicate with the help of kernel. The user is going to communicate with the help of kernel. Kernel it is a name given to the core part of Linux. Core part of Linux is referred as kernel, right? Means in this part, the operating system is being installed. The kernel, in the kernel part, the Linux operating system is being installed. That particular part is called as kernel. Clear? So with the help of kernel, the user is able to communicate with the hardware. That's why kernel is a very essential, right? It means that operating system is very essential, right? Similar to that, system libraries. System libraries are special functions, are programs using which application programs or system utilities accesses kernel's feature. System library in the sense, these are all some supportive libraries to run the system. Normally, to run the particular operating system, we have to install some packages to perform some particular activities, right? So all such packages are comes along with the system library, and some libraries are being used by the application programs also. With the help of system library means, we can call system libraries are supportive files of operating system. We can generally call it as supportive files relevant to the operating system. Clear? So without having supportive files, we cannot able to run the applications relevant to that operating system. Sometimes we can call it as packages. Clear? So normally monthly, quarterly, or annually, some packages are being released by the operating system. Why the packages are being released by the operating system? To give a support for multiple applications, or to give a support for more number of applications. Because assume that in 2010, some application is developed by some XYZ person. Clear? Yes or no? At that time, that application was developed with the available packages. Clear? And I am having same operating system, older operating system, and I want to install a newer application which was developed in 2020. Clear? And I'm trying to install the 2020 application into the 2010 operating system. At that time, the thing is not possible. Why? Because the libraries which are not giving support for 2020 application, right? 2010 applications can able to install in that system, but 2020 application is not able to install on that system. Why? Because supportive files are not available in the 2010 system. The supportive files of 2020 application is not available in 2010 system. That's why I couldn't able to install that application. I couldn't able to install current application in the older system. That's why, meanwhile, developer is going to release some packages, right? So that packages will help you to, wait a minute. Ready, ready. ಹೋಗ್ತೇನೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೇನೆ. ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಸರ್? 1 ಗಂಟೆಗ? ಆಯ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಆಯ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ಆಯ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್. ಆಯ್ತು, ನನಗೆ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಬರುತ್ತಾ? ನಿಮ್ಮ ನಂಬರ್ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ರ ನಮ್ದು? ಆಯ್ತಾಯ್ತು 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 ಸರ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಊಟ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಸರ್? ಓಕೆ 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 ಸರ್. ಓಕೆ 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 ಸರ್. ಓಕೆ 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 ಓಕೆ. ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ಒಂದು ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡಿ ಸರ್. ಆಯ್ತು, ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ಒಂದು ಹೇಳಿ. ಆಯ್ತು ಆಯ್ತು. So some packages are being released while installing 2020. If they release some packages at that time, we can able to install the 2020 application into 2010 system, right? So generally, we people are able to receive the updates in your Android application. Updates in the sense, we will be getting new features. When the update is released, at that time we are able to access the new features of the operating system, isn't it? Yes or no? So that's why we are trying to install the latest updates in our system, or latest updates to relevant to the application in our system. Why? It will give the support for most recent feature or most upcoming feature. That's why always updates are very essential for us to while using the system, right? At that time, what happens? with that the current updates, the system is going to speed up. And along with the speed, this operating system will provide more features or more facilities. Along with that, security patches are also being released, right? That is relevant to the security. Like that, updates are helpful for us, right? So at that time, that update contains some packages. We are not installing the operating system newly. We are installing the packages which are developed newly. Clear? So that is nothing but a system library. Clear? We are installing updated libraries into the system in order to give a support for a most recent features. We are installing updated system library in order to give us support for most recent features. Clear? And next thing is system utility. System utility programs are responsible to do specialized individual level tasks. I mean, there will be some specialized task will be there that is carried out by the system utility. We can call it as utility functions or utility programs like settings and display. These are all some utility programs that comes along with the system itself. Clear? Some changes can be done in these utility programs also, isn't it? Some changes can be done with these utility programs also. Clear? How the changes can be done with the latest updates. Clear? So sometime UI is being changed, right? User interface is being changed depending upon the updates which is released by the developer. Clear? So according to the user interface, some of the utility icons are being changed, or some of the functions of the utility programs are being changed. And remember one thing, these utility programs cannot be modified by the normal user. We cannot modify these utility programs. These programs are all relevant to the system. We cannot able to modify. Understood? We cannot able to modify. It means that system generated program or system developed program, we cannot modify and we cannot delete. Clear? And remember that in your Android system, and if you are trying to delete some programs which are connected to the system, at that time it won't it won't allow you to remove. Why it won't allow you to remove? Because it is connected with the system. Some of the applications are connected with the system. At that time, it will pop up a one message. Uh, if you are trying to remove so and so application at that time, it may harm to your device or it may harm to your system. Have you observed such kind of messages? For example, assume that the Chrome is a inbuilt browser which comes with the my Android operating system, and I am trying to remove the Chrome. Clear? At that time, it will give the one message. Clear? If you are trying to remove the Chrome, at that time, some of the files relevant to your device may harm or may get a problem. Clear? That kind of error, have you observed? Anyone can reply. Have you observed? Have you observed? Suppose you assume that if you are trying to remove the Play Store, clear? So whether it will allow directly to remove the Play Store? No. Before removing, it will pop up a one message. It may uh, create a problem for your devices. Like that, these are all called as utility programs. You cannot do the changes, right, which comes along with the system. So all the things which comes along with the system, we cannot modify. That's why these are all called as utility programs. Next, we'll discuss what is Unix. Unix operating system is a set of programs that act as a link between uh, computer and the user. So Unix operating system is a set of programs that act as a link between computer and user. The computer programs that allocate the system resources and coordinate all the details of the computer's internals called the operating system or kernel. So I already discussed about this. Users communicate with the kernel through the program known as shell. Here, this is one of the important point. So user communicates with the kernel through a program known as the shell. And remember that in case of Unix, whenever user wants to communicate with the kernel, he or she needs to be communicate through the shell. It is a one more layer which comes uh, in the Unix operating system. That layer is found on top of the kernel. Clear? That layer is called as shell. So always the user is not able to communicate directly to the kernel. Again, with the help of shell, the user is going to communicate with the kernel. So what is shell? That is a question. Shell is a command line interpreter. It is a command line interpreter. It translates commands entered by the user and converts them into a language that is understood by the kernel. The sentence is very clear. The shell is a command line interpreter. It translates the commands entered by the user and converts them into a language that is understood by the kernel. So here in the shell, there is a one processor called as command processor. In the shell, there is a one processor called as command processor. That command processor is also known as command line interpreter. That command processor is also known as command line interpreter. What it does, it takes the commands entered by you, whatever the command you are entering, that is being taken by the command line interpreter, and that command is being executed by the command line interpreter. If the command is found, whatever the command you are entering, if that is found, at that time, that command is being executed from that particular shell. And remember that whatever the command you are entering in the command line interpreter, that particular command must be known by the shell. That particular command must be known by the shell. In the sense, must be present inside the shell. Then only that command is being executed by the command line interpreter. If the particular command is not found, at that time the command will not be interpreted. Our command will not be executed from that particular shell. Clear? And Unix was originally developed in 1969 by a group of AT&T employees at Bell Labs, including Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. It was originally developed in the year 1969 by a group of AT&T employees at Bell Labs, including Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. Next, there are various Unix variants which are available in the market like Solaris Unix, AIX, HP Unix, and BST are few example. And Linux is also a flavor of Unix which is freely available. And this operating system is freely available, and there are many flavors which are currently available in the market like Fedora, Red Hat, PC Linux, Ubuntu. All are Unix flavored operating system or Linux flavored operating system. You can uh, using pen drive also you can run this operating system whenever you required. You can boot. You can create a bootable operating system, Unix bootable operating system, and you can insert the pen drive and you can run the operating system whenever you required, and you can remove the pen drive and when it is not required. There, using a pen drive also you can boot this particular operating system. That's why this particular operating system is very a portable operating system. This particular operating system is also called as portable operating system. And several people can use the Unix computer at the same time. Hence, Unix is called as multi-user system. When more number of people are trying to use trying to use a computer at the same time, at that time, that communication is called as multi-user system. And the user can also run multiple programs at the same time. Hence, Unix is called as multitasking. Please remember, Unix is a multi-user system and Unix is a multitasking also. Clear? It is a multi-user multitasking operating system. You please remember this thing. Unix is a multi-user multitasking operating system. It allows the multi-user to run the program and it performs a multiple tasks in that particular operating system. And following are the some important features of Unix operating system. It is portable, so size of the operating system is very small. That's why you can carry this operating system from anywhere, any place to the any other place. Clear? So you can carry it in a pen drive, and it is a open source. Open source in the sense the thing is freely available. You need not to pay anything for this operating system, and there is no license. It is not going to ask any license for while installing this operating system. That's why it is called as open source, and it provides a multi-user environment. It also provides a multi-programming environment, and it has a hierarchical file system. It has a hierarchical file system, and hierarchical file system in the sense file system is managed in a hierarchical way, like directory, subdirectory, files, sub files, like that. Clear? So there is a hierarchy we have to manage. That hierarchical file management will be there in a Unix operating system. Clear? Now, along with that, it contains a shell. Shell is nothing but it is a command line interpreter, right? In this command line interpreter, various commands will be included. So it is trying to execute various commands which are found in that particular shell. For example, most of you done the C programming in Fedora. Clear? In the Fedora, we are trying to open one application called terminal. Clear? In that terminal, we are going to get one dollar prompt, right? In front of dollar prompt, you are going to type some command along with the, for example, gedit space filename dot c. Gedit is a command and filename dot c is a file name. Clear? So gedit is a command. With that command, it is going to open a graphical editor. Clear? In order to enter, in order to type a C program. Clear? So using that gedit command, the graphical editor is being opened. Clear? Means if that gedit command is executed inside the shell, then only the graphical editor is being open, right? Otherwise, the graphical editor is not going to open. Clear? Next is security. So it is very secured operating system. Clear? Like compared to Windows, Linux is very much secured. Security is very good security is given in this particular operating system. So like this, these are the 7 features, like my portable, open source, multi-user, multi-programming, hierarchical file system, shell, and security. And this is a architecture. Linux operating system. It is a general architecture of Linux operating system. So already I talk about the architecture of the operating system, right? Hardware, operating system, and the user. This is about Linux operating system. This is the architecture of Linux operating system. So kernel is nothing but a operating system, core of the operating system. In that kernel, we have various kernel modules, and along with the on top of the kernel modules, we'll be having various system libraries, as I already discussed about system libraries. And on top of the system libraries, there are system softwares, as I already discussed about system softwares, and some user processes, right? And user utilities, right? And compilers, right? For example, C compiler, Java compiler, .NET compilers, like that. According to the particular programming language, we all are being installing the various types of compilers, right? C compiler job is what? It has to be compile the particular written code according to the particular language, right? C compilers are required to compile the C relevant code. Java compilers are required to the Java relevant code. .NET compilers are required to .NET relevant code. Like this, various compilers will be there. Clear? And on top of that, users are going to communicate. And in the hardware, there are 3 things: CPU, RAM, and input-output devices. These 3 things plays a most important role in with respect to the hardware. And this is actually the Unix architecture. So this diagram is very important. So normally the question will come like this: what is Unix? Explain Unix architecture with neat diagram. Clear? So while for that particular question, we have to draw this diagram. This is a actual Unix architecture diagram. It contains 4 layers, like hardware, kernel, shell, and application program. Hardware is nothing but the things related to the hardware, and kernel is nothing but a core of the operating system. Here in the place of kernel, the operating system is found, and in the shell there are various commands which are being found inside this particular shell, like whatever the command you are using, all such commands are found inside the shell. Clear? And in the on top of the shell, various application programs are installed. Application programs in the sense various applications relevant to the various programs relevant to the applications are being installed on top of the shell, like mail application, DBMS application, file transfer protocol, all such application, like whatever the application you take, all such applications are being installed on top of the shell. We'll discuss about kernel and shell. These two things plays a important role with respect to the Unix operating system or with respect to the Unix architecture. So normally kernel and shell are performing major action in this Unix operating system. We'll discuss what is in detail about kernel. The kernel is the heart of the operating system. It interacts with the hardware, and most of the tasks like memory management, file management, device management, and process management, like task scheduling, are done by the kernel. Kernel is nothing but a heart of the operating system. Clear? So that whatever the management we discussed in the previous session, previous slides, all such managements will be carried out by this kernel. In simple. Clear? Shell. A shell is the utility that processes your request when you type in a command at your terminal. The shell interprets the command and calls the program that you want. Clear? For example, gedit is a command. Clear? That gedit command you are typing in front of the dollar prompt. Clear? After typing gedit space filename dot c. Clear? And you are pressing enter. Clear? After pressing the enter key, whatever the command you are typing, that command is being invoked. That command is being invoked, or that command is being executed. Clear? By whom? By the shell. That command is executed by the shell. Once after executing the command, the particular application is being opened. What application is being opened? Graphical editor is being opened with the filename.c. In that graphical application, what you are going to do? You are going to type a C program. Okay, like that particular application is going to open with the help of command. Right? Normally in the GUI, we are going to click on the object. Clear? We are going to click on the icon, like double click on the icon. After double clicking on that particular icon, the particular application is going to open. But in case of Linux or in case of Unix, instead of clicking on the icon, we are going to use the commands. With the help of command, particular application is going to open. That is the only difference. In the case of graphical user interface, directly we are going to click on the icon, like if you want to open a Facebook application, we are going to click on a Facebook icon. If you want to click on a Gmail application, you want to click on a Gmail icon. Clear? That is very easy for us. But in case of Unix operating system, we have to remember the commands to open a particular application. Then only with the help of command, that particular command is being executed in order to open a particular application. Like that, there are various shell like C shell, Bourne shell, Corn shell, and most famous shell which are available with most of the Unix variant. There are various types of shells which are available that we will discuss in the next slides. And next is commands and utilities. There are various command and utilities which you would use in your day-to-day activities. Like CP is a command which is used for copying the files, and MU is a command which is used to move the files, and cat is a command which is used to create a file, and mkdir is a command which is used to make a directory. CP is a command which we are using to copy the files from one place to the another place. MU is a command which is used to move the files from one place to the another place. Cat, nothing but create. Cat is a command which is used to create a new file. For example, if you want to create a new file, you can create using cat space file name. Whatever the name you want to give, you can give. With that name, new file is being created. mkdir is nothing but making a directory, right? Making a directory. Clear? So if you want to make a new directory, at that time you can use mkdir command. These are the sample commands. Like this, we are going to learn many commands in this particular subject. This is a just sample commands which are given to give the knowledge about commands and utilities. And along with that, files and directories also plays an important role. All data in Unix is organized into files. All files are organized into directories. These directories are organized into tree-like structure called the file system. As I already said, in the Unix operating system, everything is organized in terms of files. So I'll show you how it is organized. See, this is a hierarchical file system. So in the beginning, the file system of the base of the file system is called as root directory. This is the beginning of the file system, that is called as root. And below root, there are various subdirectories like temp, opt, home, user, and variables. And below that, again, there are subdirectories. These are all directories. Clear? And in the under the web directory, there is a one more subdirectory called as images. And under the web directory, there is a one file called as index.html. Clear? So like this, directories and files are being arranged in a systematic manner. That's why it is called as hierarchical file system. That's why it is called as hierarchical file system or tree-like structure. This is structure like tree. Clear? Root is there, and along with the root, there are various subdirectories, and there are various sub files. Next, we'll discuss some of the features of the Unix. This is very important. Explain, or they will ask, explain various features of Unix. It's a very important question. So in this section, we'll discuss various features of Unix. And this section contains a brief overview of the main features of Unix. One is the multi-user, multitasking, hierarchical directory structure, portability. That everything we discussed. Multi-user in the sense more than one user can use the machine at a time, supported via terminals. It may be a serial or network connection. And multitasking in the sense more than one program can be run at the time. Hierarchical directory structure to support the organization and maintenance of files. And then portability. Portability in the sense it is a portable operating system. Due to this portability, this operating system is very much popular. Along with the portability, it is an open source, right? Why? Because of the open source, this operating system, most of the companies are using this particular operating system because we need not to pay anything for this particular operating system. That's why most of them are using this operating system, like the Linux flavored operating system. Then we'll discuss about shell, in detail about shell. Hello, sir. Hello. Hello. Hello, sir. ನಾನು ಲ್ಯಾಬಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಸರ್, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. 11:30ಗೆ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್. ಮುಗಿಯುತ್ತೆ ಸರ್. ಒಂದು 5 minutes ಬಂದು ಹೋಗಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬಂದು ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್. ಈಗ ನಾ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್. ಹಾಂ, ಬಂದು ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್. ಬಂದು hello, I will come back within 10 minutes. Okay, please.
Sorry for the inconvenience. So are you there? Hello. Are you there? Sorry for the inconvenience caused from my end. Okay, okay, fine, fine. Okay, I was discussing about the shells. We'll discuss what is shell. Shell is nothing but a command interpreter. It is nothing but a command interpreter, or you can also it is called as command processor. Command processor in the sense it takes a command from the user and it tries to execute that particular command from the shell. Right, that is the job of command interpreter, and it protects the kernel from you. It protects the kernel from you because user cannot be able to access the kernel directly. That's why the shell is going to protect the kernel from you. See this diagram. See, user means application programs are used by the user. See, these application programs are not directly connected to the kernel, right? So this particular application programs are protected by the shell. Okay, there is a one white layer you are observing, right? The kernel is protected by the shell. That's why we are referring it as kernel protects by the shell, right? Or it protect kernel is protect the shell is protects the kernel from the user. Shell protects the kernel from the user. That's why it protects the kernel from you. It really protects the kernel from you. Yes, it is really protecting the kernel from you because in between the user and the kernel, there is a shell. That's why it really protects the kernel from you. Next, there are many shells like Bourne shell, C shell, uh, corn shell, T shell, and born again shell. These are all the types of shells. Clear? These are all the types of shells which are available with the Unix, right? Bourne shell. In in short, we are calling it as SH. Bourne shell. In short, it is calling it as SH. It is developed by Steve Bourne at Bell Labs, and first shell used for shell programming. This is the first shell which is used for shell programming. We are learning shell programming in the second module. At that time, we'll discuss. First shell used for the shell programming. Then second one is a C shell. In short, we are calling it as CSH, developed by Bill Joy at Berkeley. Users wanted more familiar syntax. The syntax of the C shells are very familiar with the user. That's why this shell was developed compared to the Bourne shell, and more features than Bourne shell. Clear example, job control and history. In general, C shell is having more features than the Bourne shell. And then third one is a corn shell. In short, it is called as KSH, developed by David Korn at Bell Labs, compatible with Bourne shell, but having most features of C shell. It is compatible with the Bourne shell, but having most features of C shell. Features history editing, like command line editing feature is there. Means while typing the command, you can edit the command, right? That command line editing is possible in the corn shell. Next is T shell. It is, in short, it is called as the TCSH. It has all CSH features and less bugs. Like it is having all C shell features, but it contains less bugs. And born again shell, that is, in short, it is called as Bash, offered by Free Software Foundation. It is similar to the KSH and CSH. It is similar to the corn shell and C shell, and it also has a command line editing. This is the most recent shell, that is born again shell. These are all one of the oldest shell is Bourne shell. Old Linux flavors are using Bourne shell. Then current Linux Linux flavors are using born again shell. Means it include all the features of previous shells like T shell, Corn shell, C shell, and Bourne shell. That's why most of the current Unix flavors are using born again shell. See, born again shell is called as bash. Clear? So, have you observed most of the current Linux flavors are having a dollar prompt? Dollar prompt indicates it is a bash shell. Usually, bash uses dollar prompt. Before typing the command, we were observed about the dollar prompt, right? That is blinking in the beginning. Clear. Dollar prompt is appeared, and in front of the dollar prompt, one underscore is going to blink, right? So that dollar prompt refers to the type of the shell, which type of shell it is. Clear. Bash shell uses dollar prompt, C shell uses percentage, and T shell uses right angular prompt. TCSS, that is T shell. Clear. And super user root usually uses hash. It is a root user. Clear. So normal user is different, root user is different. Root user in the sense it is having all the privileges of the system. The root person who act as a root is having all the privileges of the system. That's why it is also called as a super user. And normal user is having some features. Means because in order to give the security, we can give the restrictions of the features which are accessed from the operating system. At that time, we can give the restrictions from the root user. Clear? Like some people simply wants to delete the files. At that time, we can change the permission from the super user. At that time, normal user cannot be able to delete such files. Clear? Means most of the privileges of the operating system is given in the super user. And in the super user case, he can format the operating system, but the thing is not possible from the normal user. Clear? That is the privileges will be differed compared to the super user and the normal user. Then next we'll discuss about Unix commands structure. So we'll stop today. Next class onwards we'll discuss Unix command structures. Is there any doubt till now? Or I discussed till shells, till shell. I discussed about what is shell. Many shells we discussed, and by seeing the prompt, we can check the prompt of the shell. Do you have any doubt till now? Don't say no. Ask some doubts. Voice is low. Some are tested that your voice is low. Whether my voice is audible? Do you have any doubt regarding the things which I discussed? Whether it was clear or there was some disturbance in between the session? Okay, fine. Do you have any doubts till shells? Tomorrow we'll discuss the next things. Varshita, Roshani, any doubts? Srilal, Bhakti, no doubts. Okay, fine. So if you have any doubts, please ping me. I will clear the doubts. Okay, because we are still in the beginning of the module 1. So if you have any doubts, please ping me. Okay, I will end the session over here. Thank you. Have a nice day.